Yeah.
And Chris was explaining this to me because he had saw that I had a need I didn't realize. I was doing crack cocaine.
Yeah.
And I was really into it. And that's where my paycheck would go. I would pay some of the rent, and then I would actually use the bulk of it to get high and get the people in the house high.
Yeah.
Well, Chris didn't get high. He didn't drink or anything. So when he shared this story with me, when he shared it with me, it was with an emphasis on me. Because after he got through explaining his alcoholism, he said, and there's a place for you. Yeah. It's called NA. You know, yeah. This was in like 1986. And I was like, Chris, I'm very compassionate and sympathetic to your story. It's heart-wrenching, and I'm endeared to you now, basically. But I don't have a problem.
All right.
You know, pretty much. I do not have a problem. Yeah. You have a problem. Yeah. Well, it turns out, 1990, so that was in 86, 1990, I had moved to Long Beach, then to Inglewood, then back to Hanford, then to Oakland, then to whoever, and I ended up in Oakland. And I was just running crazy, getting high all over. And a friend came over, and I was on a dry run. I was sick and tired of it, but I didn't know that I needed to quit. I just needed to manage the drug. I needed to be able to manage it in my life. You know, so that was my MO. You know, I'm going to be a functioning addict. And so, but a friend came over while I was on a dry run, and he said, hey, man, come on, let's go to a meeting. And I knew that was a key word for me to get out the house, to go get high, right? But I said, no, and that was one of the first times I said, no, I'm just tired of this stuff. But I laid there in my dry run state. He came by again next week. Hey, Dave, let's go to a meeting. Okay. I'm thinking we're about to go get high. And he truly took me to West Oakland, to 8th Street, to a corner old restaurant. And when we walked in, people were sitting around the table sharing their drug testimony. Yeah. And they were confessing the truth, which was not something that I was really willing to do until that point. Yeah. I was surprised. Mm-hmm. What is this? It's an A. This is a real meeting? Yeah. We're not going to get high? No. You know, I'm getting my life together, and I thought I told you it was a meeting. Yeah. You know. So I go in here, and I sit down. I'm listening to this lady, drama. She lost a baby while getting high and didn't even go to see about it. It was in the bathroom. Yeah, and she came out and continued to get high. Now, that's kind of, I'm trying to be, but I want to make the point that when you can hear someone's testimony to that magnitude, it can open up the door for you to confess your own faults. All right. When you're hearing the truth sets you free. Okay. It works that way. Bless the Lord.
Amen.
So, I got clean. I never used drugs again after that meeting. Yes, sir. I heard from the people in the meeting. You need to do a 90 and 90. They had all kinds of different, and you do 90 meters and then take the paper with you. Get it signed everywhere you go that you've been there. Take the chip. This is your first day chip. I mean, you remember how enthusiastic I was? I was just so crazy about it. I was calling her, you need to go. Yeah. And you need to go. It's a meeting for everybody. You eating too much? Yeah. You need to go to the eating meeting. I just went nuts with it. Okay, I was trying to rescue all my friends. Anybody I had used with, I was in it to win it. It was a complete turnaround. Ever since then, that was 1991, I've never used the drugs again. Yeah. I've never drank. And I didn't know I was throwing into drinking. Well, drinking wasn't my drug of choice. But somebody said in the meeting, and I was all ears. When everything said in the meeting, I was willing to do it. You have to be as honest as possible, so I wouldn't lie anymore. Whatever it took, all of a sudden I just gravitated towards the sobriety thing. Yeah, it wasn't really sobriety, it was really clean time. I wasn't really working on myself. I was just enjoying this cloud, taking this ride. And so some of the things that were familiar to me were in and around my drug use was hanging around with people that use drugs. They could be silly, fun people. Okay? They weren't always cutthroat until the drugs came into the picture. When the drugs came in, then you have to watch your back. You know, but when the drugs weren't there, you had your friends and you had your parties and you had the clubs, and that was my thing. I was going to clubs all the time running out to a club. It was like the weekend was made for a club because you get in the club and you hook up with your friends that can get high, or hopefully you just walk home. And in my life, I would walk home if I didn't connect with someone and try to get high. Yeah. Just any kind of thing that makes me get high work. It was really, it was really bad. I was really in a bad space. Yes. So this time now that I'm clean, I went into the club and a friend of mine. Not really a friend of mine, but a person that I got high with maybe a little while ago that I knew they were ballers. They did it big time. You wanted to be with them because you knew it was not going to run out. It was going to be plenty for everybody, and you had a minimal fee. You know, if you had a fee at all. And he walked right up to me when I walked in the door, and he said, "Guess what?" He said, "They're going to get it right now. We're going to spend the whole weekend out in Richmond. We're going to get high. It's going to be all good." He said, "They're going to get the party favorites." He referred to drugs as party favorites. Okay? And he said, they're going to get them. I guess the poppers and all the stuff, that whatever. They were going to pick them up. And what I did was, while he was talking to me, he was this pole right here, right? And I was listening to him, and I just did this. I did an about face, and then I ran. And I ran out the club. Something I've never done before. I ran pushing people out the way, past the bouncer and out the door, and then a couple of miles almost up the street into downtown Oakland in the night. Okay? Now, I didn't know it was a knee-jerk reaction. That was not my plan. I didn't go in there with a premeditated plan that if someone approaches me with drugs, I'm going to run out a club like a clown, looking crazy, running out the door like, you know, somebody had shot at me or something, right? It was something that happened as a result of what I had been investing my mind and heart in. Something triggered me. This is not what you want to do. This is too inviting. Can you see the enemy in this? Who comes to you and tells you you're part of a party you haven't even contributed to? You know, and it's an all weekend long thing. And I know the guy. Driving a Mercedes, I knew he had money. I knew what was about to happen. I jetted out the door like a jackrabbit. Yes, sir. I still didn't understand me. And then I tried to be embarrassed about it, thinking that people that had seen me before, where I used to be really reserved and stuff, were going to talk about me. Oh, he's going crazy now. And those were the kinds of things that came back to haunt me. Now, what the Lord was explaining to me is that when I didn't know it, I had accepted the Lord in Los Angeles before I met Chris, who told me about NA. Going through a bad drug deal, some big Olympian guy was going to kill everybody in the house. He had guns and everything, and all this was going on, right? And I accepted the Lord that day. It was partly out of fear. Fear had something to do with it. But it was partly that I was sick and tired of my life. I accepted the Lord and kept using. Now, this would be a problem for some Christians. How are you going to accept the Lord? You continue to use drugs and alcohol. How are you going to do that? Can we close that door? Is it necessary to be open? It feels kind of please. Okay, thank you. How are we going to, how do we represent still sinning? I think after I accepted the Lord, when I would sin in drugs or whatever I was into, sex, whatever I was doing, I was repentant. All of a sudden, when I would do something wrong, I repented. I didn't stop doing wrong. I started repenting for my wrong. There was a conviction that I had that I didn't used to experience.